awkward on this computer. Awesome. All right, just click continue. It'll pop up, either leave meeting or continue. Hopefully you want to stay and learn. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. So today I'm going to be talking about how to create a need and build value. Who on here has gotten one of the following objections? I need to talk to my husband. Oh, I don't need knives. Oh, that's too much for me. Or some version of that's out of my budget. All right, we've all gotten these before, right? Well, I'm glad you're here, okay? Because when I was new, I used to get these all the time, right? And it's funny, I was thinking about this when I was preparing for this workshop, how I've been doing this for 4 years now. This is my 5th summer, yet I still hear these same exact objections every single day, right? And that goes to show you that if we're hearing the same exact objections for years on end, our program works, right? And it's a matter of learning how you combat these objections. And when's the best time to handle an objection? Before it comes up, right? I saw a lot of you mouthing it to your screen. Okay, so today that's my main focus, is to teach you guys how to create a need and build value, because the better you do a job at this, the less objections and the less no sales you're going to have. Okay, so a huge chunk of these objections comes down to these 2 steps. Do you guys remember your 7 steps to a sale from training? Okay, cool. So step number 1, you create a relationship, right? That's a whole nother workshop, but this is huge and, a totally another topic. But if you skip this step, nothing else matters. Even if you give the perfect demo, you got to start with step 1, right? You got to go in order. So build a relationship. Step 2, establish credibility. But step 3 and 4, creating a need and building value. These are the 2 most important steps when it comes to any sale, right? And some of you skip right over this and go straight to options and comparison, and I've even heard some of you say, maybe not on this workshop, but some calls I've taken, some of you believe that step 6, when you compare and present prices and you're talking about Wusthof, you believe that that's building value. That's not, right? If you skip either one of these, you're not going to make a sale, right? And by the time you tell them the price, it's too late, right? Once they know the price of Cutco, if the value wasn't built the right way, then it's too late. No matter how well you handle objections, it's so important that by the time you tell them the price, they were expecting it to be way higher than it already was. And you do that through creating value, because if the value is not there, it's too late and it's really hard to come back from that. So that's why creating a need and building value is so important. First, if you create a need, you're going to make a sale on every single demo, right? You do a good job creating a need, you're going to make a sale every single time. You do a good job building value. Kayla, I'm going to mute you out, girl. You do a good job building value, they're going to buy big. That's what helps with your average order, right? So I'm going to start with some keys to creating a need. So first things first, when it comes to creating a need, is asking quality questions. You're good, Kayla. Good morning. All right, so asking quality questions. And I'm going to go over some quality questions here shortly, but here's the deal. Your customer is either going to have one of 3 categories. They're going to either have good knives, like who's seen someone that has like Wusthof, or like the nice Hinkles, like not the crap Hinkles, like the 2-guy nice Hinkles. Okay, someone who has good knives, someone who has bad knives, right? Like they have that junk drawer in the video, like that's their drawer. You've all seen people like that. And then someone who has Cutco, right? And there's a different way to create a need for each person. So let's start with people that have good knives. Okay, so I would just jot down like Wusthof, Shun, whatever. Let's say they have good knives. Guys, if they already spent a lot of money on knives, do you think they understand how knives work? At least a little bit? Yeah, probably, right? So they've already spent a decent chunk of money on knives. So would it make sense to do Miss Jones, the average junk knife is $20, so you're spending about $400. Would it make sense to do that math example if they've already spent money on knives? No, right? And this is how you learn to take it up a little bit from like just average to good to great. Learning how to deal with different types of customers, right? So let's say they have good knives. All right, when you're going over the price comparison with Wusthof and Shun, I think this is something that's missed. Is when we're new, we're like, yeah, Wusthof sucks, like blah, blah, blah. No, guys, you want to build Wusthof up like it's great, right? For example, yeah, Miss Jones. So obviously Cutco's top rated, so we're going to compare it to the top brand sold in stores. So first we have Wusthof. You've heard of Wusthof, right? You have that in your kitchen. Yeah, we've had Wusthof for blah, 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 6 years. Okay, cool. Well, Miss Jones, Wusthof, they're great knives. Like if I didn't own Cutco, I would have Wusthof. But here's why Cutco's better, right? Because Wustof's a good brand, you guys. They're made in Germany. They're a good brand, but Cutco is better. We all know that. So it's our job to tell Miss Jones why. Okay, so the way you create a need is by teaching her, hey, Miss Jones, with Wusthof and Shun, they're actually meant to be sharpened after every single time you use them. Isn't that a hassle? And what does she say back? Yes, Miranda, it is a hassle, actually. Right, Miss Jones, just so you know, every time you put them in the dishwasher, the warranty is actually void on Wusthof knives. Can you believe that, Miss Jones? No, I can't believe that. Right? Hey, Miss Jones, just so you know, even though Wustof's great, they actually don't have a forever guarantee. It's only lifetime. Lifetime warranties actually do have an expiration date, and you still have to replace these every 8 to 10 years. So that ends up costing you X over a lifetime. Okay, so that's how you build value and create a need with good knives. Second category is bad knives. So bad knives. This one's a lot easier, right? You guys learned this in training. I mean, you could go on and on about how bad cheap knives are, right? And I have some questions in the quality questions section, so we'll kind of go back to this. And then third category is Cutco. They have Cutco. All right, so how do you create a need when they have Cutco? Well, they already love the product. Okay, so when it comes to Cutco owners, a huge, huge thing is your goal sharing. Right, getting them tied into you. And that's a whole separate workshop that I'm sure we'll have in the upcoming weeks. But when it comes to Cutco, you want to present it like every tool is cohesive. So let's say they have like 4 or 5 pieces. Cool. So you're building rapport. You're building Cutco rapport, by the way. Okay, so Ms. Jones, what do you use your trimmer for? Oh, I use it for this, this, and this. Ooh, Ms. Jones, just so you know, the trimmer is actually meant for this. You would actually use the Hardy slicer for cutting bell peppers. I'll show you that later. Right, these are some things I learned from Justin Ford, the man himself, right? So when you're building rapport at the beginning, you're building Cutco rapport, asking them what they use the knife for. And then you're like, oh, Ms. Jones, just so you know, it's going to last a lot longer if you use the right tool for the right job. The Hardy slicer, that is awesome for that job. I'll show you that later. So that's creating a buying atmosphere and creating a need from the very beginning. Because who's shown a Cutco owner and they're like, I have everything I need. I don't need any more. Right? It's because there's no need there, just because you're like, oh, okay, cool. This is this. This is this. Do you want to get it? Right? And that's kind of a joke, but we've all done that before when we're new. So that's how you create a need with Cutco owners. All right, so let's talk about quality questions. All right, so these questions are designed to lead your customer to your ultimate goal, which is a sale, right? Or you guys, this can be used in an agreement in any matter. Okay, so there's 2 types. First is positive response. So these are positive response questions. So basically what this means is they're yes, no questions, but guess what the response is? Yes, exactly, Sabrina. The answer is yes. So some examples. Hey, Miss Jones, do you see how you would use this knife? Hey, Miss Jones, do you see why this knife is in the set? Hey, Miss Jones, does that sound good? Miss Jones, all Cutco's dishwasher safe. Does that sound good? All right, and my favorite one, Miss Jones, can you see why everyone buys this stuff? And it doesn't matter when you put these in the demo, right? It can be during the video you pause it. It can be when you're going through the names and uses. All that matters is you're getting her to say yes, right? And even something as simple as right, is a powerful way to gain agreement when used after a logical statement, right? The customer can't help but nod in agreement. Like for example, like this is good stuff, isn't it? And they're like, yeah, Diego, it is. Right. And you can laugh a little bit. You're like, this is good stuff, isn't it? Customers by your conviction and belief in the product. Don't forget that. Your enthusiasm is what sells Cutco. Okay, so Miss Jones, do you see why this knife is in the set? Okay, cool. Do you see how you would use this knife? You're getting them to agree. Okay, so that's positive response. Now the second type is controlled questions. Okay, so a controlled question is a question that you ask, but you already know what the response is going to be. Okay, so I'll say that one more time. A controlled question is a question you ask, but you already know what the response is going to be. And you ask these because it gets them to tell you versus you telling them. And what I mean by that is when you say it, you're the salesperson, right? People know how sales works. You know, you're supposed to say it, right? But when they say it, they're agreeing and they're telling you. Example. Hey, Miss Jones, what happens when you put plastic candles next to a hot stove? It melts, right? Hey, Miss Jones, what do you do when a serrated edge won't cut anymore? Throw it away, buy a new one. After all, what's a knife supposed to do? Cut, right? Those are the only way to answer those questions because everyone answers those questions direct or correctly, right? So I'll say those again if you want to use them. Hey, what happens when you put a plastic candle next to a hot stove? It melts, Liz. Hey, what do you do when a serrated edge won't cut anymore? Well, JJ, you got to throw it away or buy a new one, right? After all, winter, what's the knife supposed to do? It's supposed to cut, right? And have them answer the question. That is a controlled question. And the more they are agreeing with us, the closer we are to a sale. All right, an example with the guarantee. Hey, Ms. Jones, how do you think we can offer such a great guarantee? And the customer will answer every time because it's a great product. Right. You know, and what's cool is you've only been on Zoom for a few minutes and shown them two things, and they're already saying our product is great. Right, before you've even shown them all the sets. Okay, this is how we can sell on average, you know, more than half the time to people who had no idea they would be buying knives before we met with them, right? You know, of course you have to have a great product, but this helps, right? And then the last thing when it comes to creating a need is framing questions, right? Framing questions. This is designed to get the customer in the right state or frame of mind. Okay, so there's different types. The first type is as if. Okay, as if. So framing questions as if. Assume they've made the decision already. Examples. Hey, Ms. Jones, if you got a set, which one would you get? Let me show you some other examples of like other industries. Hey, if we found that exact house that you were looking for, how soon would you want to move in? Hey, if we found the perfect car, would you buy or would you lease? If I could show you an investment you could benefit from, would you invest now? If we could save you money, would you want to get it? Right? These questions put someone in the frame of mind of already having bought. Right? So get them to stop focusing on why it can't be done and why it can be done. Making sense so far? Okay, cool. Now another one is pre-framing. So that was as if. Another way to frame is pre-framing. Right? What this does is you set their expectation. Right? So, Ms. Jones, Cutco is the world's finest. So as you may guess, it comes with the world's finest price. All right, another one. The first thing I want to tell you is that Cutco isn't cheap. Now, I'm sure you're glad to hear that, right? Because what happens to cheap stuff? It breaks. Right? You get what you pay for, Ms. Jones. Okay. So, pre-framing, right? You're setting their expectation, and don't be afraid and shy away from talking about how Cutco is expensive, right? People like nice things. People want to have the best in their kitchen because cheap stuff breaks. People don't want cheap stuff in their kitchen. You want them to believe that every single knife alone is $1,000. So that way, when you get to the price, it's a no-brainer. It just makes sense, right? Okay. Now, third is reframing. Reframing. This is basically handling objections. Reframing, right? Another way to word this is just perspective, right? Sometimes your perspective changes. You have a totally different a meaning to something, right? So reframing. Okay, very seldom, you guys, will you close a sale without any objections, even if the person intends to buy, right? Everyone wants to feel like they are getting a great deal. So they're going to test you with objections, right? And that's key to understand. All any objection means is give me a better deal. Everyone wants to feel like they're getting a good deal. And also realize that when you get an objection, that's positive. That's a good thing, right? Because if they didn't want it, they would just say, I don't want it, rather than give you an objection, right? I need to talk to my husband. Oh, that's out of my budget. Oh, I don't need knives. Those are all objections versus I don't want those, right? So if a salesperson in a store asks you about something you didn't want, you wouldn't discuss fit, price, color, etc. You would just say no. All right, so an objection that indicates that there is at least some interest and therefore the opportunity for a sale, right? In handling objections, that's a whole other meaning. But when it comes to the objection cycle, listen and pause. Step number one, listen and pause. Step number two, acknowledge, right? One, listen because they get to understand. Two, acknowledge means that you validate their concern, right? You got to meet someone where they're at first before you take them with you. Okay, three, clarify what you think they mean. This just takes a non-confrontational approach. So, Ms. Jones, so it sounds like you like Cutco, but you just want to talk to your husband first. Is that right? I just want to make sure I understand. Like, yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's number three. Four, offer a possible solution. This is way more efficient than using controversial words like but. Right? Has anyone like ever gotten an apology? They're like, I'm sorry I did this, but blah, blah, blah. That invalidates everything that they said before, right? So instead of using words like but, just offer a possible solution. And then five, use questions to lead to a sale. So after you present a solution, use a quality question to get a yes. I like, hey, Ms. Jones, does that work better for you? Okay, so listen and pause. Listen, you get to understand. Two, acknowledge means you validate their concern. Three, clarify what you think they mean. This takes a non-confrontational approach, way more efficient than using controversial words like but. Four, offer a possible solution. You clarify. Five, use questions to lead to a sale. So you present a solution, use quality questions to get a yes. Ms. Jones, I like, for example, hey, does that work better for you? All right, so quality questions is how you create a need. Now to wrap up, I just want to share how you build value. Okay, so some keys to building value. All right, and this is just, it starts with your mindset. So number one is your mindset. You have to believe not that they might buy, you need to believe that they should, right? There's a difference, right? Not that they might buy, like, yeah, I know I've had some conversation with my team where they're like, yeah, expectations create reality, so I'm gonna make a sale, right? Multiple people have said that, which is great, but you need to actually believe that they should buy, not that you might make a sale, right? Do you understand the difference there? Because if the value is greater than the price, a sale is made on every single demo. Every single demo, right? The value is greater than the price, a sale is made on every single demo. And it's important to understand, you guys, $1,000 isn't a lot for a family, right? Unless, of course, they have something going on, that's understandable. But $1,000 really isn't a lot for a family. Think about a vacation. Families will spend a couple grand on a vacation and nothing to show for it except for some pictures on Facebook, right? Like they spent money on a hotel, on food, travel, everything, but nothing to show for it except for some pictures on Facebook. They spend $1,000 on Cutco. That's something they'll have for 40, 50 years, and that their kids will have, and their kids will have. Right? Think about a TV. Think about a couch. Right? An Xbox and 10 games. Think about a MacBook. Some of your computers cost more than a homemaker. Right? You guys get the point. Think about a homemaker. Okay, a homemaker over 10 years is $132 a year. Basically one dinner a year for 4 people. Breaks down to $11 a month over 10 years. Who of your customers have Netflix? If they're going to spend $10 a year on Netflix, or excuse me, $11 a month on Netflix for 10 years, that's the same price as the homemaker. Right? Homemaker over 20 years is $67 a year. Over 30 years, $44 a year. Right? That's like 60 cents a day or less. They'll spend that on plastic spoons and forks. Right? So let's say the dinner example. So Ms. Jones, if you eat out one less time per month, let's say you spend $60 on a meal. The homemaker pays for itself in less than 2 years. By just eating out one less time a month, $60 on a meal, the homemaker pays for itself in less than 2 years. Okay. And that's the homemaker. We're not even talking about galley and starter sets, but those are equally as awesome if money is a problem, right? And they're still sets. Sometimes we get in this mind space of signatures, ultimates, homemakers are nothing, right? The Studio Plus 4 has the same trimmer, the same guarantee, and it's their set that they may love, right? There's a set in our book for everybody. And it's not important that you guys know that. It's important that who knows that? Your customers, right? Because if they feel like, oh, the homemaker or nothing, oh, I'm not getting a good deal because I'm getting the studio set, of course they're not going to buy it. They're going to say, you know, I'll wait. I'd rather wait to get that homemaker. Right? So your mindset, number 1. Step 2, build crazy value. So value building phrases like, Ms. Jones is the best knife in the world. You know, can you see how you use that trimmer for 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Ms. Jones, you see how you use the set for 20, 30, 40, 50 years? Right? And say it just like that, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the world, right? They should be expecting the homemaker to be several grand, right? Those Wüsthof and Schun sets really exist, you guys. Those are real sets. I challenge you to walk into Williams and Sonoma and see them, right? They are sold 8 minutes away from where I live at the mall. Okay, and those are 2 to 3 grand, but there's no handle. There's no double D edge. They're not dishwasher safe. They're not made in America, and they're not guaranteed forever. And people spend money on those sets, right? Those are real. So they should be expecting the homemaker to be several grand, right? We could sell homemakers for $2,000, right? And, you know, I wouldn't mind that because I make pretty solid commission on it, but we don't, right? Okay, and super important when it comes to prices. Let's try to speed up and wrap up here. Always break it down on paper, right? It's weird to just hear prices. A confused mind, you guys, will always say no. People need to see prices so they can look at it, process it, and make a decision. Okay, if they just hear it, they feel like they need to make a decision on the spot and will usually say no. So if you're not typing out prices or having your customer write it down, I guarantee that's a huge issue with your closing ratio. People need to see it to make a decision, right? It's weird just to hear numbers, right? I'm a numbers person, and even I need to write things down to see it, right? People need to see it, okay? And then finally, a couple miscellaneous tips. You know, whenever you're going through the demo, you should say your set. So Ms. Jones, can you see how you'd use so for example, Ms. Jones, you get the spatula spreader in your set. Your set. Your set has this forever guarantee, Ms. Jones. Your set. Say set a lot, right? They should be thinking that sets are the only option until you get to the individual pieces, right? And if they ask, hey, can I get individual pieces? I mean, I guess you could, but sets are a much better value. Let me show you those first, at least. Okay, so a couple miscellaneous tips to wrap up. I'm going to do a speed round. Something you know but you don't actually do. Use people's name in conversation, right? The sweetest sound in any language is the sound of one's own name. That's Dale Carnegie, one of my favorite books, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Right? The sweetest sound in any language is the sound of one's own name. Okay, when you say people's name, their ears will perk up. Right? And if you make a conscious effort to learn someone's name, it will make you a better listener and you'll have better quality conversations across the board. That's just a miscellaneous tip for life. Okay, so it's 9:31. I just want to review everything we covered. First, right, step 3 and 4 are the most important part, right? If you create a need, they're going to buy every single time. If you build value really well, they're going to buy big. Right? We talked about how there's 3 different types of customers. People have good knives, people have bad knives or Cutco. We talked about the ways to build value in different ways. Right? We create a need through quality questions. So the 2 types, you have positive response questions. Hey, Ms. Jones, do you see why this knife is in the set? Yes. Do you see how you would use this knife? Yes. Can you see why everyone buys this stuff? Yes. Second was controlled questions, a question that you ask, but you already know what the response is going to be. Hey, what happens when you put a plastic knife on the hot stove? After all, what's a knife supposed to do? And then we talked about framing questions. Hey, if we found, if I could show you an investment that you could benefit from, would you invest now? If we could save you money, would you want to get it? Pre-framing. Ms. Jones, Cutco is the world's finest. So as you may guess, it comes with the world's finest price. Okay, and then reframing, handling objections. Understanding that objections are a good thing. Right? When I think about some of my biggest sales, I've gotten objections, right? That means they're interested and they're asking for more information. Okay, and then building value first is your mindset. You got to believe that not they might buy, but that they should buy. Right? Understand that the homemaker over 10 years, it's $132 a year. Right? Value building phrases, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, Ms. Jones. Right? And super important, prices on paper and say their name a lot throughout the demo. All right, you guys. So that's all I got this morning. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any follow-up questions, and I'm sure your manager will get this recording posted. Thank you guys for being on. It's 9:33. I want you guys to post your biggest takeaway in your local WhatsApp group. Okay, so a little light bulb emoji, biggest takeaway.